What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. I just ranked and reviewed the Police's 5 studio albums. So per unwritten YouTube law, I am now going to give you my list of the top 10 Police songs. How did I get to the Police since I started this channel to do all things Zappa? Mr. Sting, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sting played with Zappa March 3rd, 1988. You can hear a somewhat edited version of that on Broadway. The Hard Way album, they did a Murder by Numbers, sort of a rearranged it, give it a more straightforward 12-bar blues version of it. Excellent performance, a really good listen, probably the highlight of that album. But that's how we got to the Police under Frank Zappa's concept of the big note. While this list, I think, was pretty easy to make, I am sad at the number of songs I had to leave off of here. This is almost like 20% of their entire catalog. I think it actually might be 20% of their entire catalog. They did 5 albums. I think some of them only have 9 songs, right? So this might be more than 20% of their entire catalog officially released. Not counting like the extra tracks, Murder by Numbers, or like the pre-album tracks. Yeah, these are my 10 favorite songs. There are a couple songs that are not on here that are specifically not on here because I don't ever need to hear them again. And while I do recognize that they are iconic Police tracks, I don't listen to them anymore. I wouldn't even stick around and listen to them when they're on the radio if I was listening to the radio, just because I don't need to hear them again. There are a number of tracks on here which I have heard that number of times simply because of the radio, simply because, you know, even as young as like 8 or 9 when my parents were listening to the radio, these were songs I knew from like the beginning of my exposure to music. But a couple of them I can still listen to just because they're amazing. Yeah, so it is an arbitrary 10. I'm not one of those who likes to give honorable mentions, so you're never going to know what 11 was. But yes, it is that song, right? The one you think should be on here that I left off, it was 11. It just barely missed out. Sorry about that. Also, a lot of these, it's like the song itself is good, but like my argument for it would be listen to the drums. Just listen to Copeland's use of, just listen to those hi-hats, or just listen to what Summers does like in the verses and then what he switches it up in the chorus, or listen to that weird solo, or listen to that bass line by Stink by Sting. So as much as I like the songs, you know, the forest for the trees themselves are each so incredibly good. But I'm just going to run through this. No breaks. None of this. Let's get to that. I will put a list up at the very end so you can like know what it is in case you lose track, in case you care. But anyways, we're just going to go through them quickly. Nothing on the bottom. No numbers. Nothing. Here we go. Again, I'll put a list up at the end if you care. Number 10, Behind My Camel, the instrumental Andy Summers. Kind of sounds like, I mentioned this in the album review video, sounds like a song the band Camper Von Beethoven would have played on maybe one of their first 2 albums. Instrumental, has sort of a Middle Eastern type vibe to it. It's one of those instrumental songs that doesn't feature a guitar solo or particularly go anywhere. It's just this really powerful mood piece that just works really well in the course of that album, which was In Yada Mandata, my favorite Police album. It works so incredibly well. I know Sting hated it. I don't think he plays bass on it. I think he refused to play on the song, which says a lot about Sting's music post-Police and how necessary Summers and Copeland were to the success of this band. But Behind the Camel, fantastic song. Number 9, So Lonely. This is the only song that made it off their debut album, even though I think their debut album is their second best album, which I think just goes to the inconsistency of Police albums. I really like that debut album because I like that sort of the shorter, more succinct, more simpler kind of pop punk sound that they had on that album. I think all the songs are good, but I think this is by far the best. And some of the albums that I think lesser of maybe have worse tracks. You know, they have a couple great tracks, a handful of like good tracks, then maybe 1 or 2 that I don't engage with. Where that debut album, I like all of them. I just don't like that spoken word interlude on Sally. But I think So Lonely is by far the best. I think I like Sting's delivery. We're getting into that little reggae style. We're starting to get into a little more identifiable police sound after the opening track. Yeah, I just think So Lonely is a phenomenal track. Number 8, Tea in the Sahara. The closing track on Synchronicity, the album, the vinyl. There's Murder by Numbers as a bonus track on the CD. But I just love the way this sounds. This is another one of those where like every little instrument and every little note, it's a slower song. It's kind of a ballad. I love the inspiration for the song, a story that's told within the novel The Sheltering Sky, about two sisters who have tea with a prince, and then they're waiting for him to return. I guess they make an engagement for him to return. He never does. So they're waiting to have tea in the Sahara with you. Just a great song. Just an all-around solid performance. On a pretty strong album, Synchronicity. But again, I think it just closes it out just so beautifully. I think it's one of their more, like, elegant songs. Yeah. Number 7, make sure my lists match. I typed it and then wrote it because my writing's horrible. A Message in a Bottle. This is one of those I've heard way too many times. But that opening riff, the drumming, everything, the bass playing, just the way the ending of like all these bottles washed up on the shore. That's amazing. I just think it's a good song. It's a fun song. It's like somebody at some point had to write a Message in the Bottle song, and the Police did. And they did it perfectly, so nobody else ever had to like write about throwing a message in the bottle. Is there another Message in the Bottle song out there that I'm missing? Do other people write songs about throwing, a message in a bottle and letting it go out to sea? As much as I don't encourage that because we don't want to be throwing things in the ocean, I will say that I worked at a school once where a teacher did do that. They put a message in a bottle with the school's address, and all the kids wrote a letter in it. It was taken down to the coast here in Texas and thrown into the Gulf, which I don't know how it got out of the Gulf, but they got a reply from somebody in I think it was Massachusetts or maybe Connecticut or something, years later. So I don't know how it got there, but I know a teacher once tried that and they did receive a reply years later. Or so I was told that story by the teacher who did it. So anyways. Number 6, Synchronicity 2. Again, it's 3 people in this band. And just listening to the verses, there's some keyboard effects I think added to the song. But just everything each of them is playing is so perfect. I like Sting's story. I like the whole synchronicity between life, the daily grind of life versus this idea of the Loch Ness Monster raising his head on a Scottish loch many miles away. I like the song. I like the energy. I like the has this, I've always thought of it as this weird sci-fi feel about it, though it is very grounded in reality. It just has a really neat sound. I think it's that opening weird sound that opens the song. But just the energy when the drums finally kick in and the bass and Summer's guitar work, it's an almost perfect song, man. It's just an amazing, amazing song. Should have closed the album. Synchronicity 2 should have closed the album. Tea in the Sahara should have closed out side 1. I really think switching those 2 tracks on Synchronicity helps balance out the album a little bit better. I'm not a fan of the songs they put on A versus the songs they put on side B. I think there's an imbalance there that doesn't help the album, especially now in the digital age when nobody's actually listening to it on vinyl and they're probably streaming the entire thing. I think the album would have worked better had Synchronicity 1 opened, as it does. Synchronicity 2 closed. Thoughts on that? 5, Driven to Tears. Great song. Sting trying to be political, but doing so in a way that can apply to many different situations. It's not too specific. I love the energy of the song. I like how it kind of kicks up into a little bit of a jam at the end. I do think this could have been a jam band, not in the sense that we need really long Andy Summers solos, but more of a jam band in the sense of letting songs ride out and riding the groove that are just a natural part of so many of these songs, and then letting that like that groove sort of change into another song, sort of like a Scarlet Begonias into Fire on the Mountain, how you would, like in the best versions of that, like you realize fire is about to happen like a minute, 2 minutes before they actually like delve into it. And like Jerry will play a lick and then Phil might add some and then Bob comes in and they sort of like usher their way from like Scarlet into Fire. And I think Police could have done a really good job with a lot of these songs of sort of like taking the jam and like slowly like ushering it, like the artist usher, in which little things change until you're finally like, oh, we're off into that next song. So Driven to Tears is one of those that is a great ending that I think live they could have rode that a little longer and a little harder. Number 4, Don't Stand So Close to Me. This is another one I've probably heard way too many times. The Greatest Hits remake of this that the Police did in '86 is pretty atrocious. Did not need to be done. The vibe of this song, there's an ominous feel about it. The tone of the music and just Andy Summers like like he's like creeping, like it's a little bit sneaky when he first comes in because it's a teacher who's an adult and there's a precocious might be the wrong word. There's a young girl who's not old enough to be a woman coming on to him into ways that are inappropriate, and he's responding in ways that are completely inappropriate. And the tone of the music and that just the way Summers kind of creeps in the beginning and the way when we drop into the second verse, it kind of takes on this different, like, you're reminded, like the chorus is so don't stand so uplifting that when you drop into that second verse, you're kind of reminded like, oh yeah, this is kind of a serious song and we shouldn't be like celebratory in the chorus. The hook in the chorus, Don't Stand So Close to Me, of course, being so amazing that Sting would then use it as the same melody for I want my MTV. And I recently saw a reaction video of somebody reacting to Money for Nothing. And about a month earlier, it was the two rappers react. It's the two guys. I don't know their names, but it's two guys who react. And in the beginning of the video, they're always like, let me try to make you guess the song. What do you tell somebody when you don't want them to do something? Don't. Yeah, that's the first word. But it's those guys. But they reacted to Money for Nothing. And as soon as he started singing I Want My MTV, the guy immediately recognized it as Don't Stand So Close to Me, which they had done like a month earlier, which I thought I was impressed with. I don't know. Just want to give them a shout out for those ears. That's number 4. Number 3, When the World Is Running Down, you make the best of what's still around. I mean, just that opening groove, the way they slide into that groove. This is another one of those things, man. Driven to Tears, and then you jam out When the World Is Running Down, and then maybe you segue into something else. Man, I wish the Police had more of that sort of letting songs flow into each other energy, because that would have been phenomenal. But this is another near perfect song. Love the groove, love the lyrics, love everything about this song. Love Summer's sort of accents on the guitar. Just phenomenal. Number 2, Bring on the Night. I love the intro. I love there's like different parts on this. I love the chorus. That opening sort of guitar riff is so good that Stevie Nicks, and she has admitted to this, stole it for the beginning of Edge of 17. So if you know Edge of 17, go back and listen to Edge of 17 and then listen to this. Nicks admitted to the fact. I think they were in the studio and I think she presented the song and they didn't have an opening, and the guy was like, the guitar player had been listening to this and he did like a variation on it, and she was like, yeah, let's steal that. I want to say she admitted to it. I think they later told Sting and he was cool with it or something. I don't know. But there's an interview with Stevie Nicks floating around on the internets where she talks about stealing this riff from the Police. But Bring on the Night, just an amazing song. I liked it when I first heard it, but it was not until I saw Sting live in '85, one of my first concerts that sort of defined my live experience. And they did a really good version of this. And I want to say it went into a Sting song, like Love is the Seventh Wave or something. Might have went into When the World is Running Down. I don't think so. I think it was a Bring on the Night into a Sting song. I need to remember that. I don't remember. Into a police, yeah, into a Sting song. But just a phenomenal song. Just a great song. I love the different parts. Again, just focusing on different instruments every time I listen to it because each of them is bringing something so incredibly incredible. And number one, arguably one of the greatest pop songs ever written to my ears. Every little thing she does is magic. The opening piano parts, just the lyrics, the whole chorus about the verse about 1,000 rainy days since we first met. It's one of my favorite verses in all of pop rock music. Sting knows that's a good verse because I think he quotes it on Synchronicity, and then he quotes it again on Dream of the Blue Turtles, and in the song he quotes it in on Dream of the Blue Turtles. I think he quotes it in on Nothing Like the Sun. So he did this self-referential thing that started with this for a couple albums, which I appreciate. I like that conceptual continuity. Another connection with Zappa that Sting is bringing to the Police's music and his music. So anyways, yeah, that's my list of 10 favorite songs. There they are right there in order from 1 to 10. I had to leave a lot of I would say that like at least half their catalog could have made this list, and I would be like, yeah, that one is also a pretty friggin' great song. For having only 5 albums, I would say at least roughly half those songs are just stone cold classics, man. Stone cold classics. And they really only have 2 that I don't like, and that is the atrocious Walking in Your Footsteps and Be My Girl Sally, but only because of the Sally part. Other than that, at their very worst, they're just kind of maybe forgettable, but never bad when you're listening to them. But anyways, thank you for watching. That was a quick run through my 10 favorite Police songs. I'm not going to be touching the Sting albums. I had comments on the last video about Sting. I like Dream of the Blue Turtles, though going back and listening to it, it's safe jazz. It's edgeless. There's not much danger in Sting's music. Even Dream of the Blue Turtles, which I think is maybe his best. Didn't really like, I was okay with Nothing Like the Sun. Didn't like Soul Cages. 10 Sumner's Tales has some fun songwriting on it, though again, the production's kind of bad. The songs are kind of, aren't dangerous in any way, shape, or form, but I do think 10 Sumner's Tales has a couple kind of good songs on it. After that, I checked out. I don't know anything about Sting. But anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. Comment below. Peace. Subscribe. It's getting hot in this room because it's 112 outside. But yeah, that's it, people. You know how it goes. Thanks for watching. And I will see you at the next video. Bye.